Wally Kempton, welcome to Australian Musician.
Again. Can we tell the people at home what happened?
They don't need to know.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me about growing up in suburbia and when the music bug bit you.
Suburbia was quite nice. I was brought up in Croydon in the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne. It was a little bit rough when I was younger, but it's quite pleasant nowadays. Mum still lives at the family home, so I'm out there a lot. I guess the musical bug got me when I was about 5, really, because my folks had a lot of 7-inch singles and albums that I used to play and scratch and, and ruin for the poor bastards. They're all behind you in that selection now. They rarely get played because I don't want to ruin my stylus, but they're just keepsakes. I had cousins who were, older cousins who were well into their music, so I used to go and hang out with them. And my dad's brother, one of my uncles, he had a massive collection, so that's where I got my love for it. Variety of things from Goblin and Motorhead through to Sherbet and Skyhooks and everything in between. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. You mentioned in our rehearsal there were specific people that you got different kinds of music from?
Yeah, well, my Uncle Darryl introduced me to the Beatles and ABBA. My cousin Rodney was the one responsible for Goblin and Motorhead. Cousin Jeannie was Fleetwood Mac and Neil Young and bands like that. And then cousin Diane was Skyhooks and Sherbet and all the top 40 fodder of the day. But Mum always had the radio on, 3XY, 3MP, 3OK, whatever it was. And, in fact, I've still got it in there, little boombox with the, record off the radio. So Mum would always be making tapes herself, just the classic, take the pause off when the song comes on you want. And so it goes, meow, and then the song starts. Got lots of those cassettes still. As you pointed out before, I can't seem to throw anything away.
Do you remember the first record you bought with your own money?
I do indeed. It was Roy Orbison 20 Golden Greats, which is also in that rack behind you. Bought from John Robinson Music in Arndale Shopping Centre in Croydon. I used a gift voucher given to me by my dad's parents for my birthday.
And the bass, when did that come into the picture?
When I was about 15, I think. Me and my buddy from school, Leventi Pito, Lefty, decided that we both wanted to play bass. And neither of it, both had big families, one single parent income, not single parent, but one income families. And so we couldn't afford to go to the lessons individually, so we went together. I had a, pretty average bass at the time, and he didn't have one at all. So the teacher had a spare one, so we'd always swap. We'd take turns in using the teacher's one because it was a lot better than mine. But yeah, then we actually went to a gig at the Dorset Gardens Hotel and saw our teacher perform after about 6 months and just looked at each other and went, wow, we don't need any lessons anymore, that's enough. Which I guess was a little short-sighted and somewhat arrogant at the time because I haven't had a lesson since.
As you started getting into the bass, did you have bass playing heroes or influences?
Not necessarily back then, but over the years I've grown to appreciate quite a handful. Graham Maybe from Joe Jackson's band, Trevor Boulder from the Spiders from Mars, Ron Lane and Ron Wood from the Small Faces and the Faces. They're the ones that I really thought, they had really powerful melodic bass lines, and that's what I like to try and do.
You joined the Meanies in 1989. How did that come about?
I actually started as a booking agent and manager, and after 6 months, the bass player, who was originally from Adelaide, had to go back because he got into the next level of an engineering course or something and got offered some work. So he decided to make the wise decision of actually earning a living. And I was already playing bass in a couple of tiny bands around town, and Link just said, "Why don't you just play?" And I went, "Okay, sure." I think just too lazy to audition anybody, so I just learnt the songs and joined the fray.
The Ramones were an obvious influence on the Meanies in the early days, especially.
Yeah.
Were all Ramones fans?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's hard not to be a Ramones fan. They're so easy to like, but I think the four on the floor, pop punk sound, and the fact that all the guys had long dark hair and wore leather jackets and all adopted the surname Meanie for the stage. That's pretty much the only similarities we had to the Ramones. And I didn't have long hair or a leather jacket, and I still don't. But yeah, that soon wore thin. Link would openly say, crass words in interviews when someone mentioned that, because quite frankly, there's a lot more going on in a Meanies song than there is in a Ramones song. To be fair, as much as the Ramones were fantastic and beyond reproach and awesome and love them to death, but Meanie songs aren't quite as simple.
Yeah, you did meet the Ramones?
Yeah, we played on the same lineup as them at the big day out, and kind of met them. The only one that we really chatted to was CJ. We didn't really cross paths with the rest of them. Yeah, I mean, I didn't anyway. I can't talk for the others. They might have had more chats with them backstage. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I believe you got to go to CBGB's at one point?
Yeah, even played there in the late 90s on one of our numerous junkets overseas, and it was great to have been. Just another box to tick. But I tell you what, it was filthy, and we were there on a Tuesday night, and we were on pretty early, and but it was good to say we've been there and played there. But Jesus Christ, the place stank. It was so run down. Can you imagine the old bar toilets times 50 as far as disgustingness goes?
The Meanies have released 4 studio albums. There's a new single called Shutdown. Are you looking to release another album or EP?
Yeah, there will be another album. I don't know when it's going to be though, but I think Link's demoed half of it already, because he writes all the stuff. When it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're just waiting on him to finish it off. That Shutdown though, it came from a recording session we did at Yikesville with Shane O'Mara 25 years ago. We found it in the vault, so to speak. And so it continues on a series of 7-inch singles we've been having over the last 10 or 15 years, where the A-side's an unreleased Meanies song, and then the B-side is other Aussie bands doing Meanies covers. So we've got quite a few of those now.
Yeah, Frenzal Rom and Leeches?
Yeah, Frenzal Rom and Leeches are the two on this one. But in previous singles we've had bands like Spiderbait, Cockfight Shootout, The Drones, Dan Kelly and the Alpha Males, Glenn Richards from Augie March, Snout even, Digger and the Pussycats, Double Agents, and if I've forgotten anyone, please forgive me.
The single Shutdown, when you found that in the vault, was it as funky and psychedelic as it is now?
Yeah, it's had is a vinyl master treatment done to it. Otherwise, it's exactly as it was recorded. I think Link was just going through a phase where he just wanted to try different stuff, and Shane had only just opened the studio, so we were his guinea pigs in a sense. So it was no holds barred. We had nothing to lose. So we recorded a country song, we recorded that funk song, we did a disco song, we did an indie rock song, we did a psychedelic song. It's as well as all your usual Meanie style rock and roll and punk stuff. So we recorded 20 songs in total, I think, maybe even 22. And a lot of them have come out over the years as the A-sides to those singles I was mentioning, but also a couple of EPs. We did Richie Ramone did a not from the band Ramones, but local music identity Richie Ramone. He released 6 of them on an EP on one of his labels, and a Spanish label released an EP of another 6 tracks. But otherwise, yeah. And I've been talking about it for a couple of years already and haven't done anything about it. But next year will be the year. I'm going to put all those songs together on the one release and put it out there for the world to judge.
You've got a tour starting Friday, October 31 in Castlemaine.
Indeed.
Tell me what a Meanies tour rehearsal looks like.
It never usually happens at all, but we did do one this week because of Shutdown. Like I say, it's 25 years old and we've never played it live, so we had to relearn it. So we did that on Tuesday night, and it doesn't sound too bad. Hopefully, I don't balls it up. But we also went over a few other songs, but it had to drive to Broadmeadows from Fitzroy, set up in Link's house because he's got a whole setup in there in the house because he does a lot of recording from there. We went through those songs a bunch of times, packed up and went home. So I was home within 2 hours. It was fantastic.
When you think back on the Meanies' career, what have been some of the more memorable moments?
Well, my first show with the band, which was 6 months after the band had actually started, was quite memorable because I don't think I've been so goddamn nervous in my life. And I still remember the time and the date. We were on stage at 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday at the Richmond Club Hotel, which is now Yuppie Bistro. We opened for Legend Killers, Stone Circus, and Venom P. Stinger, and it was amazing. I just loved it, but I was so bloody nervous. Cottonmouth, big time Cottonmouth. So that was pretty memorable. Those early shows, even at venues where you got paid $50 and had to supply 2 loaders. Thank you, X. And early days of the Hard-Ons too, for that matter. They were great. Playing with the Hard-Ons in the early days, playing with Cosmic Psychos in the early days, they were amazing. Touring Japan the first time was mind-blowing. It was the first time I'd been out of the country. In fact, my first time ever on a plane was travelling down to Tassie with the Meanies. So I hadn't even set foot on an aeroplane until I was 21. So I had a lot of firsts with the Meanies in my life. So playing with Nirvana, touring with Pearl Jam. We did a lot of shows with a Geelong band called Board, which was fantastic because they were, Dave Thomas was really supportive. Those early days in the recording studios are always great fun. I've grown to greatly dislike the recording studio because there's so much waiting around. But in those days, it was exciting. It's just been so many, recording overseas, touring America, touring Europe, going back to Japan. Oh, the list is endless. I could. How long you got? I could just go on and on about it. There's been many highlights. And the same with Even, for that matter. We did a lot of touring with Even as well, internationally. I think from 92 to 2002, I was away overseas at least once a year with one of those 2 bands, and it was just on the road a lot. Yeah. When both bands started to slow down a bit, I missed that, so I became a tour manager just so I could get out on the road.
The other band Even started in '94.
Yep.
How did that happen?
After one of those international tours with the Meanies, we were away for 3 months. We recorded an album in America, then went to Europe and did 29 shows in 32 days. So we kind of got on each other's nerves a bit, and decided to have 6 months off when we got home. But before we did that, we did a Rocking Its Work gig on a Thursday arvo at the Punters Club. And Ash was in the crowd, and he heard us announce on stage that we're taking some time off. So he came up to me and said, because I'd known him from when he was in a band called The Swarm, and he said to me, me and Matt are starting a new band, and maybe you'd like to play bass since you're taking time off from the Meanies. And I went, show me the music. And he gave me a cassette, and I listened to it incessantly for the next 4 days because I loved it so much, and rang him up and said, when do we start? Where do I sign? So that's how Even formed. We didn't have a name back then, so our first few shows we were listed as either Wally Meanies' new band or Ash, Matt and Wall. It was just, pretty out there. And then I think we were called Mohair for a couple of days. And then we settled on Even, and the rest, as they say, is a long time ago. We had our first show in March '94, I think it was, and borrowed the bass amp from the headline band and blew it up. Inauspicious start. That was quite a costly gig.
The last Even album was Reverse Light Years,
Yep.
Epic album, talking to Ash Naylor, that took quite a bit out of him.
Yeah.
Seems that the band's just in a holding pattern at the moment.
Yeah, well, that did take a lot out of him because it was during the shamdemic as well, so it was bits and pieces here and there, and You know, we could all never all be in the same place at the same time. All that palaver. Looking back now, it was just ridiculous. But anyway, he did a great job, amazing job piecing all the bits and pieces together, and it came out really well. Probably got the best reviews of anything we've ever done. And then we toured it after it came out quite a lot. We had a very busy year. So then, yeah, at the end of 2022, he just said he wanted to have a break from all things even. So we said, okay, no worries. Thinking, yeah, right, because you said that at the end of 2021. And then we had one of our busiest years in 2022, but then maybe that's why he was more adamant about it at the end of 2022. So yeah, the last show we did was playing with the Sunny Boys in Adelaide in January 23, and we haven't played since. But he's been really busy with, as you probably know from talking to him, but Paul Kelly tours, and he's joined the church, and Rockwiz Orchestra, he still does that stuff. Plus I think he's put out 2 solo records in that time, done the occasional gig. So yeah, he's pretty busy. And Matt now lives in 3 hours from Melbourne and teaches art at a high school in that town. And I've been really busy with the label, so it's the time's flown by. Like January, it'll be 3 years since we played, and it doesn't feel like that. That's for sure. But we all still talk. We all get along, bump into each other. I mean, Matt's also in another band that is on my label, so I see him fairly regularly still. And then, if I go to one of the gigs that Ash is on, it's always good to catch up.
Yeah. You mentioned the label, CHEERQUAD Records. Why did you start that, and what was the goal?
I started it because I'm a lunatic, and for some reason I thought I had a lot of time on my hands. Bruce Milne, Exel Go-Go, and now Greville Records warned me against it, but I wanted to do it. There's 2 bands I was managing, I kind of still do, although they don't really do much at the moment, but Mini Bikes and Money for Rope, and they both had their second records done and dusted and ready to go. And because we released them independently beforehand, I was trying to get them a record deal. And either I'm just a really bad manager, potentially, or it was just a bad timing, but all the labels I spoke to loved both records but didn't want to sign either of them. So after 6 or 7 of those knockbacks, I thought, stuff it, I'll just do it myself. And so I contacted both bands and they said, yep, let's do it. And that's what started the label. They were the first 2 releases, catalogue number wise, Mini Bikes and Money for Rope, but the actual first vinyl was in September 2018, and it was a Spanish band, Los Chicos, because they were going to be touring that November with Radio Birdman. So we rushed out their latest album, and yeah, a long time ago now, so it's over 7 years since it started, and there's been many a release. Quite proud. There's that proud question you asked the other day. I guess that's what I'm most proud of, is the fact that I've lasted 7 years as a label and put out a lot of really top quality music. Not a single dud. I've really loved it, and there's more to come. I've got some more great releases this year and a bunch for next year lined up already. So things are looking okay.
What are some releases that are coming up soon?
I've got Stephen Cummings, his new EP called Joy, which is 4 covers. That comes out in a few weeks. Next week we've got the reissue of Susanna Espy album, Sea of Lights. We've got a Snout reissue, their first album, What's That Sound? That comes out late November. First week of December we've got a Hard-Ons compilation. It's actually the soundtrack to their The Most Australian Band Ever documentary. So that comes out start of December, and then we wind that up for the year. But in the new year we've got records by Ruby and the Clumsy Dollies, which is Tim Rogers' daughter, and Grace Mitchell, who is a wonderful, wonderful artist. So her next record's quite fabulous. We've got a fella called Ash Santilla, more music from him. He was the singer in 67 Special back in the early noughties, and his solo record is just incredible. Cale Kelly got his second record coming out in the new year. We've got another Smoked Salmon record coming out next year as well. Smoked Salmon being the latest Kim Salmon band. He of the Scientists and Be Suburban. And we might even have a few surprises in store as far as the reissues go in the new year as well. But yeah, there's lots. And of course that Meanies record I mentioned earlier. Yeah.
So what do you get the most joy out of? Playing bass in a band, managing bands, running a record company?
Well, that changes from year to year, but currently I reckon that running the label is the most joy I get. Because I don't get on stage too much anymore because the Meanies play infrequently and even haven't played for 3 years nearly, as I mentioned. And managing bands is really hard. When I was, when you're in the thick of it and things are going well, it's great fun. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Achieving the unachievable sometimes, and like that period probably from about 2010 to 2016 of looking after Money for Rope, we did so much. I mean, they did 7 international tours in 5 years. It was crazy, and I went on a lot of them. And it was, they'd put out a couple of great records. It was a lot of fun, but they're in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment themselves. And managing the Meanies in the early days was great. I mean, it was very reactive because once we got on a roll, it was just like putting pieces together and making sure that things happened. And Bruce Milne at Go was an incredible help with the Meanies back then as well, because I mean every idea he had worked, and he instigated the Japanese tour, the American recording sessions, the first European tour. So he was integral. I probably don't thank him enough, actually. Thanks, Bruce. And I guess I was kind of managing even. It was just I just assumed the role. It was just a rollover, and after a while it just got a bit too much. So we tried other managers along the way, but they didn't work out. And I suspect when Ash is ready to reignite even, that we might be looking for management and anyone out there interested. So that I don't have to worry about it, which would be great. And maybe even a label so that Ash doesn't have to worry about it. So yeah, I think at the moment I get the most enjoyment out of running the label.
Melbourne is acknowledged globally as a great music city. What do you love about the Melbourne music scene?
Well, it's very inclusive. Anyone is happy to play with anyone else, no matter what age, gender, orientation, whatever. There's a lot of venues. There's a lot of great venues still. For every one that closes down, another 2 seem to open. Community radio is exceptional in this city. Sin FM, 3CR, Triple R, PBS, MBS, the list goes on. There's so many out there. And it's just, they're really supportive, and we'd be pretty stuffed without them. I mean, we could do with a bit more commercial radio acknowledgement of the local product. That'd be nice. And it'd be great if there was some more music on TV. Not that I watch TV myself, so I don't know where I'm going with that. Even the streamers, maybe there could be something on the streaming platforms that just a show, just that champions local music would be pretty nice. I think someone's trying to launch a radio station at the moment that plays solely Australian stuff, so that'd be good. I don't know whether that's going to have a frequency or whether it's only going to be digital, but either way, it's a bloody marvellous idea. Yeah. But Melbourne still rocks. Still love it to pieces.
Yeah. And most importantly, what are your hopes for the Carlton Football Club for 2026?
That we win more than 9 games, basically, and that everyone that's at the club actually wants to be at the club and just plays to their capacity. I'm looking forward to it. I think I never don't look forward to it, but I wish the season was starting again next week. It annoys me that I have to wait till early March, but yeah, I think that's all I want, is that we win more games next year. I'm not one that pretends to know what the hell goes on out there, but I still go every week, and when I'm around, I only missed one Melbourne-based game last year, and I normally try and get to an interstate one or two, but that didn't happen last year. But yeah, I still watch, I still go, I still support, still love. Andy Sinclair. I still use it. A mate of mine had that made for me in Vietnam many years ago, and it still works.
So this is your main bass. What is it, and where'd you get it?
This is my only bass at the moment. A 1975 Gibson Grabber. It had a sister bass at the time called the Ripper. The Grabber's got a sliding pickup, and it's as light as a feather. The Ripper had many pickups and it was heavy as hell. So I had a Ripper for a while, but it was like, get rid of this. I've had many basses over the years, and this is the one I just always go back to. The most recent one that sat there for a while was a 1968 Samurai, Yamaha Samurai, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I only used it a couple of times on when I had a bubblegum band with Murray Cook from the Wiggles. When he did about 5 gigs and then it stopped. That was pretty funny, actually. And yeah, I got this from Stringer's Rare Guitars on Johnson Street, Collingwood. Don't look for it, it's not there anymore. And he had an amazing array of basses in there. I used to go in there quite often and just go, what about that one? What about that one? Or can I try that one? And every time I fell in love with something, he'd go, oh, that's already sold, I'm just doing a setup on it. But the day I saw this, it was just sitting behind him in the corner, behind his counter. The strings were all rusty. It had no case. Still plugged it in, had to play. It's even with rusty strings on it, it still sounded amazing. And I just went, how much? And he told me, I won't make anyone depressed by telling you how cheap it was, because I think they go, good condition ones of these go for anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 these days. But I paid a lot less for it than that. And yeah, I had a case made for it, which isn't this one, but it was heavy as hell. Oh God, it was so heavy. And yeah, it's got the warmth of a Fender P, but the grunt of a Gibbo, and I love it. I pretty much use it on everything. At the moment, it probably could do with a refret because it's a little bit old and weathered, but I honestly don't play often enough anymore to bother go to that effort.
And what do you like to play through?
I've got an Ampeg 8x10 that thankfully my housemate lets me store in his room because he doesn't have a lot of stuff in there. That's from 1964. I think it used to belong to Matthew Eddy from the Huxton Creepers, funnily enough. And it's so good, and it's only had two of the 8 speakers needed replacing. So the other 6 are still original, and it still sounds fantastic. Anyone that borrows it just goes, oh, that one. And I've got after trying many heads in the early days, from early 90s onwards, I have stuck with Gallien-Kruger 800 RBs because they're just so easy, and they're still a bit weighty, but they're so easy to transport, and they serve my purpose. I mean, ideally I'd love an Ampeg SVT, but they're so big and heavy and cumbersome, but they still sound the best. But I'm happy enough with the Gallien-Kruger 800 RB on my Ampeg 8x10.
Tell me the story about the day you almost gave it away and you went to give your gear away.
Yeah, I can't remember what year it was, but yeah, I'd had enough. It was before I started the label, so I didn't have as much going on, and I just thought, I wasn't earning a lot of money, so I just, I'd had enough. Meanies weren't playing, Even weren't playing, whatever, I can't remember, but, I took my entire rig down to the bass centre in South Melbourne and said to Guy Palmer behind the counter, can you sell all this shit for me? And he goes, are you sure? I went, yeah, I've had enough, just get rid of it. I need the money, and it's taking up too much space, so I fucking piss it off. And he could sense that I was full of shit or just going through a phase. So he said, I'll bring it all in, I've got to test it all. And he just made it sound like honey, and I just went, oh yeah, I can't do it. He goes, I didn't think so, dickhead. And so I packed everything up and I went home. So thank you, Guy, because I've still got it all exactly the same stuff that you tested out for me that day. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but it was just a phase I was going through. I'd had enough. I was probably even contemplating going out and getting what they call a real job, but I've never really had one of those. I mean, I worked in the Shock warehouse for a while, Shock Records warehouse, packing orders, which was great fun because everyone else in the place was an out of work muso. I was, I booked the Tote in the early days, and I booked the Gershon room at the Espy for a bit in the 2000s. But otherwise, I've never had what's considered a real job.
So what's the plan moving forward?
Sell more records. It'd be great if the Meanies could sell a few more records too. We've always been known to sell more T-shirts than records, and that hasn't changed ever. Yeah, I just keep putting records out from local artists that I adore. The occasional international one if they'll let me, and yeah, just keep the dream alive. Basically, just I like putting people's records out. It makes me happy, makes them happy, and maybe one of them will get picked up one day and sell a lot of copies. Who knows? But as long as I can keep making ends meet, I'm happy.
Wally Kempton, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Greg, again. Just don't drop the hard drive this time.